The first missing person was a 17-year-old boy named Tyler Graves. He disappeared on a Friday night after leaving a friend's house. Security cameras captured him walking home alone at 11:14 p.m. He never made it. Police searched for weeks. Nothing. No phone. No body. No witnesses. Eventually, the case went cold. Then another person vanished. A woman walking her dog. 6 months later, a college student. Then a retired man who lived alone. The disappearances stretched across 4 years, and detectives couldn't find a connection. Different ages, different lifestyles, different schedules. The only thing they shared was geography. Each person had last been seen within a mile of Willow Lane, a dead-end street on the edge of town. Detectives interviewed everyone who lived there. One resident stood out, a man named Richard Voss. He had lived on Willow Lane for nearly 20 years. He rarely left his property. Neighbors described him as polite but distant. There was never enough evidence to investigate him further, until a storm changed everything. One summer night, heavy rain flooded part of the town. Water rushed through drainage ditches and low-lying areas. The next morning, a maintenance worker clearing debris discovered a human skull lodged beneath a storm grate. Police assumed it was historical remains. Then forensic testing identified it as Tyler Graves, the boy who had vanished 4 years earlier. The discovery triggered a massive search. Ground-penetrating radar was brought in. Cadaver dogs swept the area. The dogs repeatedly returned to the same location, Richard Voss's property. A warrant was issued. When officers arrived, Richard was sitting on his porch drinking coffee. He didn't run, didn't argue. He simply watched them walk past him and begin searching the land. The property contained an old barn behind the house. At first glance, it appeared abandoned. Dust covered everything. Old farming equipment rusted in place. Broken tools hung from the walls. But investigators noticed fresh concrete near the center of the floor. A rectangular patch, newer than the surrounding surface. Workers broke it apart. The smell emerged immediately. Then came the first body. Then another, and another. Beneath the barn floor was a hidden chamber. Small, windowless, constructed years earlier. Inside were the remains of multiple victims, some dating back nearly a decade. The town was stunned. People couldn't understand how something so horrific had existed in plain sight for so long. But the worst discovery came later. Investigators reviewing old utility records found that Richard's barn consumed electricity year-round, far more than a storage building should. For years, when they examined the underground chamber more closely, they found evidence that victims had been kept alive there before the deaths. The realization hit families like a second tragedy. For some victims, the suffering hadn't ended the night they disappeared. At trial, Richard rarely spoke. When he did, his answers were short, emotionless, cold. One prosecutor asked why he built the chamber beneath the barn. Richard looked at the jury, then replied quietly, "Nobody ever looks underneath." The courtroom fell silent. He was convicted on every charge and sentenced to spend the rest of his life in prison. The barn was demolished shortly afterward. The underground chamber filled with concrete. Today, nothing remains except an empty field. But locals still avoid Willow Lane after dark. Not because they believe the place is haunted, because they know it isn't. Something real happened there, something hidden beneath their feet for years. And for many people, reality is far more frightening than any ghost.